Yeah, thank you so much, everyone. So, Gnosis Guild, who are we? We are a small team incubated by Gnosis, and we support organizations, including Gnosis, but also others, along their path of decentralization. And today I want to take you on a journey, basically from zero to a technical setup for fully decentralized governance. It always begins with an idea and a group of people forming around it. And now we start our journey along a path that we see a lot of projects in the space taking nowadays. They go and deploy a Gnosis-safe multi-signature account, adding the entire team as owners on that safe. So the safe is for holding the shared assets, and in this example, they configure it so that it takes 4 out of the 6 multi-sig owners to sign every transaction. So initially, they just coordinate on Discord, and this works well. But over time, their decisions become more substantial, and also they want to involve more and more people. So at some point, they decide to launch their own token. So they go and deploy an ERC20 contract and mint some tokens to all the team members, and maybe also keep some reserves to incentivize future contributors. In order to keep a formal record of their decisions, they create a snapshot space for token voting. So in case you don't know Snapshot, it has become this really popular governance tool for DAOs, since rising gas costs have made voting on Ethereum prohibitively expensive. And in Snapshot, anyone can post public proposals that are then taken to voting. And when doing so, you define a block number. And then Snapshot will take a snapshot of everyone's governance token balances at this block. So then all the token holders can come and cast their votes that are weighted according to their respective balances. A vote on Snapshot is simply a signed message that is stored on the IPFS decentralized storage system, which means it is off-chain and voters, they don't need to pay any gas. So it's completely free, removing the burden for voters to participate. And this brings them to what we call the first stage of DAOs. And actually, this stage is also where we see most of the DAOs out there are currently operating at. So they use Snapshot for off-chain token-based voting, and then they trust a selected group of signers to execute on the vote outcomes. So now let's continue our journey exploring some new frontiers for DAOs. With the Safe Snap plugin to Snapshot, as part of a proposal, the author can define a list of transactions to be executed once the vote passes and is positive. So once the voting finishes, the transaction can then be triggered by clicking this button directly in the Snapshot UI. And this can be done by anyone. So how does this work? Under the hood, this uses the Reality ETH oracle, and we had Edmund this morning explaining in depth how this oracle works, but if you weren't at this talk, I can repeat it maybe in a nutshell. So this oracle uses an escalation game where anyone can go and submit the answer or the outcome. And if someone is dishonest and posts a false outcome, anyone else can come and challenge that answer. And whenever you post an answer, you need to set up a bond. And when you want to challenge it, post a new answer, you need to pay double the previous bond. And this game continues for an arbitrary amount of rounds. The bonds become higher and higher, and at some point the required bond becomes so high that no one individual would be able to post it. And the assumption now is that an honest majority could always coordinate to collectively put up the highest bond. So for setting all this up, we can go to the Safe Apps section, which is something like an app store for the safe. And here we find an app called Zodiac. And when opening the Zodiac app, we can find a list of modules supporting different kinds of governance primitives. So we now select the reality module, which allows executing transactions from the safe based on the outcomes reported by a reality ETH oracle. To enable it, we need to provide some settings. So this is where we put the contract address of reality ETH. The timeout is the duration during which a reported outcome can be challenged, and it resets after every new answer. And with the cooldown, we can configure some extra time that needs to pass once the oracle has settled on a final answer, before the encoded transactions in the proposal actually become executable. And this is just like some optional extra safety mechanism giving the safe owners, the signers, the chance to intervene in case something unexpected happens. So with this module enabled on the DAO safe and the SafeSnap plugin being configured on the side of Snapshot, being configured so that it points to the reality module, we get this integration directly into the Snapshot UI where anybody can just click this button. So, so now we have the reality module set up, which means that we can bridge the off-chain votes on Snapshot into on-chain execution. And with that, our DAO has taken a massive leap towards decentralization. The organization no longer needs to trust the group of safe owners to execute on voting outcomes, but now they basically rely on the escalation game theory behind the oracle. So this is phase 2. And beyond token voting, a DAO might want to adopt other governance primitives. So, for example, not every DAO is meant to stay forever. And while typically a lot of thought is put into launching, comparatively little goes into how to disband. And I now want to present another Zodiac module that addresses this, the exit module. And the idea here is to let people redeem their governance tokens, exit the DAO, redeem their governance tokens for a fair share of the treasury held in the DAO's account. So first, let's walk through the process of setting up the exit module. So this is our safe, the DAO safe, and we see that it holds some DAI and ETH. And again, the idea is to let leavers claim their share of DAI and ETH. So we can go again to the Zodiac Safe app. And we see here in the left column that the reality module is enabled. This is what we did earlier. And now we go and select the exit module. And when we want to enable the exit module, it asks us for the contract address of our governance token. So we provide that. And but that's basically it. So now with this module enabled, we allow governance token holders to redeem them. To do so, like as a token holder, I go to the exit app. And this is how it looks. So on the top left, you can see the circulating supply of our governance token. Then below that, we see like our balance of the governance token, so like the balance held by the connected wallet. And here I can enter the amount of these tokens that I want to redeem. At the moment, we haven't filled anything here, so we see on the left side that the claimable value is 0. But if we then decide to go maybe with 100 tokens, since this is 10% of the circulating supply, it should also give us 10% of the assets held in the safe. And we can see these values updating on the right-hand side. So we can check the cash out, and if we are happy, we confirm by clicking this button. And once the transaction has been executed, we can observe the values updating. So we see here the asset balances in the safe. They went down, less ETH and less DAI in the safe. They went to our wallet, while our balance of the governance token went down. So with the exit module in place, we have now reached the third phase of our DAO journey, where we have everything in place for fully decentralized governance. But there's still our original group of multi-sig owners on the safe, and they still have full control to do whatever they want with 4 out of 6 signatures. And ideally, they don't actively use this control, but rather act as a backstop in case something unexpected happens. And then, after running like this for a while, the DAO builds more and more confidence in the setup, and at some point, it becomes reasonable to remove this backstop, that is, removing the safe owners from the safe. And it's only now that we've reached the final stage of our journey. No multi-sig owners left on the safe, no way to circumvent the voting process. And now we can truly claim to operate in a state of fully decentralized governance. So, we've seen a simple journey from idea to full decentralization using 2 Zodiac modules, the reality module and the exit module. But there's more that you can enable in the Zodiac Safe app. So we call Zodiac the expansion pack for DAOs. But more than just a set of tools, Zodiac is a composable design philosophy and an open standard. Think of DeFi, where you have some established standard interface, ERC20, and then different protocols building on top of that, having ERC20 tokens as their inputs and their outputs. And this gives us this amazing composability where different protocols can plug into each other and build on top of each other, allowing for more and more complex financial applications to emerge. And this interoperability of protocols throughout an entire ecosystem creates a flywheel effect, and this is what made DeFi explode. And we imagine DAO tooling to work in the same way. If we look at existing DAO frameworks, from Aragon to Colony to Moloch, etc., they are all designed as monolithic systems. They are built around their own set of core contracts and then implement their own version of modularity on top of that, like extensions, plug-in, apps, whatnot. So each of these systems is like the center of its own universe. And there's no concept of composability between them. And this creates walled gardens. It means tremendous switching costs if your DAO wants to grow and evolve its governance beyond of what the chosen framework allows. So let's say you launch a DAO on the Aragon framework, and then 6 months later, your community decides it would like to migrate to Moloch. This means proposals to transfer all of the DAO's tokens and assets, proposals to update all systems where your DAO account is an owner or has some other role, as well as updating any external references to the DAO's account address. And coordinating all of this can amount to a monumental challenge. The key insight that inspired Zodiac is the decoupling of the account from the logic that makes it do things. So using our previous example, the DAO would spin up a Gnosis safe as its account and then set up Aragon as a governance framework. They would enable a Zodiac Aragon module to allow Aragon to control the safe. And now, if 6 months down the road the community wants to switch to Moloch, it can do so in a single proposal. It would simply remove the Aragon module, replacing it with a Zodiac Moloch module. And from now on, Moloch would exercise control over the account. And that way the DAO keeps all its assets in the same place. The account address stays stable, but yeah, governance is provided by a different framework. What this example also illustrates well is that we don't see Zodiac competing with any of the existing DAO frameworks. We rather think it will connect existing tools, enabling organic pathways for progressive decentralization. So we at Gnosis Guild, we see ourselves as keepers of the Zodiac open standard, and we want to build this as much as possible out in the open. So we invite everyone to contribute. Yeah, so join us in building an ecosystem of interoperable DAO building blocks. Join us in using and composing Zodiac modules to design your DAOs. And yeah, let's see what fantastic and unforeseen applications will emerge out of that. This is how you can find us. Thank you for being here today, and I'm sure there's plenty of time for questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Jan. Yeah, we have time for questions. Go ahead.
Hi, Jan. Great presentation. I was wondering, is there anything like half of an exit module? So if I want to redeem like percentage of my participation, but not a rage quit, let's say.
Yeah, this is what we just saw in the example where I had like 500 governance token in my wallet, but I only redeemed 100. So it's up to you to choose how much you want to exit. Yes.
Okay, I overlooked that part. Another thing, like the fourth step towards full decentralization, like removing the safe owners. Can you explain it a bit more in depth, please?
So when initially setting up all these governance tools, you still have your safe owners. Like they can still execute transaction with 4 out of 6 signature, however they like. And this is probably also good because otherwise you kind of give away full control without ever battle testing the setup, right? So it is reasonable to run like this for a while. And yeah, the safe owners, they are supposed to not actually use their power, but they are really there only as a backstop. But yeah, technically you cannot call this full decentralization because there is still this backdoor, so to say. Removing these owners really decentralizes the setup because no one can circumvent the token voting processes.
Yeah, so my question's around the example you gave of like removing Aragon. They were on before and they seem to have a new version that's sort of unopinionated, that's also modular. So I'm curious, like, is there really a use case for removing something that's sort of unopinionated and also like plugin based? Like, is there an innate design difference in how you've designed it versus something that's sort of also unopinionated and modular?
Yeah, I'm not fully aware of the latest developments of Aragon, but it sounds great if they move in this direction. Like our mission establishing Zodiac is mainly to kind of form an open standard. So we would love for Aragon to adopt some kind of modularity that fits also with what other projects are doing, because then we get this overall composability, right? So then we can have, like Aragon, you can evolve your governance on Aragon, but then if you want to use maybe a little part from some other framework, you can do that as well, and you don't need to have like a huge switch over.
Thank you.
Thank you for the presentation. I was just wondering on the point of removing the safe owners, is it possible to appoint new safe owners? Because I think that to have a backstop is something really important, and I don't think that any DAO should remove it. If you make the parallel with any legal system, there's always a backstop, like a supreme authority. So is the option to appoint a new safe owners after?
Absolutely. I mean, you can always have DAO proposals and then a vote on who should become the new safe owners. You can temporarily remove them and then add them again, or you can maybe even have something like regular votes to appoint new safe holders. This is absolutely possible, yes.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Here.
Just a very short one. How are you making money?
Yeah, at the moment we are in the lucky position to have some funding from Gnosis. For the longer term, we see ourselves collaborating with DAOs, supporting them in adopting our technology, and then hopefully finding some relationships with them that align interests for the long term and somehow make us sustain our work. Yeah.
I think if there are no more questions, we'll wrap it up there. Thank you, Jan, so much for your talk.